Hi everyone, welcome to this online session on business communication. The topic for this session is reports and presentations. This topic will be taken across two video sessions, and in the current session we will understand the definition of a report, meaning of a report, what are the features of reports, what are the objectives of a report, and what are the steps involved in preparing a report. We'll also try to understand what are the different types of reports in this video session. Now let us move on to the definition of a report. The definition by Brown says, report is a communication from someone who has some information to someone who wants to use the information. Let's go through it once again. Report is a communication from someone who has some information to someone who wants to use the information. You break up the definition and you will understand 3 points. 1. Your report is a communication. 2. It's a communication from someone who has some information. Point 3. This communication is sent to someone who wants to use the information, or the person who receives the communication has some use for the information contained in the communication. To take a simple example, take the case of a daily report on COVID cases in a particular district, which is collected by the district collector and sent to the chief secretary of the state. Now the person who sends the report is the district collector. He has some information on the number of COVID cases in that particular day in his district. This report is sent to whom? It is sent to the chief secretary of the state. Now the chief secretary of the state has some use for this information. He needs to brief the chief minister daily or the health minister daily, prepare plans to fight the epidemic. If we want to understand this definition in slightly more detail, let us break this definition into a slightly elaborate way. Report is a communication or advice from a person who has collected and or studied certain facts to a person who has asked for this report and needs it for a specific purpose. This is a slightly long explanation. We need to break it down to study in detail. Let us try to understand this explanation from 2 points. First is from the sender of the report. Now we understand that a report is a communication from a person to another person. The person who sends the communication is the sender of the report. Now if you look at it from the perspective of the sender, point 1, he is sending a communication or an advice. Point 2, he is sending this communication or advice based on certain facts which he has studied, based on certain situations which he has analyzed in detail. It is not as if he is simply sending some information. He has analyzed, he has studied, he has researched a particular situation. He has analyzed, researched, studied certain data. He has understood certain facts. And it is this which he presents as a report to the person who has asked for the report. So from a sender's point of view, point 1, he is sending a communication. Point 2, his communication is based on study of certain facts, certain situations, certain data. Now we look at it from the point of view of the receiver of the report. Point 1, this person has asked for the report. He needs the report. That is why he has sent or he has demanded the report from the person who has to send the same. So the first point is that the receiver of the report has asked for the report. Point 2, he has asked for the report not to keep on his table. He needs it for a specific purpose. As we mentioned earlier, the chief secretary has asked for the report from the district collector not to gather dust on his table. He needs this data to present to the chief minister, to detail out action plans that need to be taken to fight the epidemic. So from the receiver's perspective, point 1, the receiver has specifically asked for the report. Point 2, he has asked for the report because he needs it for a specific purpose. Let us go back to the explanation once again. The explanation says, report is a communication or advice. Point 1, from a person who has collected and or studied certain facts. Point 2, Point 3 says it is sent to a person who has asked for the report. This is point 3. Coming to point 4, the person who has asked for the report needs it for a specific purpose. Moving forward, let us understand the objectives and the importance of reports. As we understood earlier, a report contains information based on detailed collection of data or a detailed study of certain situations. Apart from that, it also has some recommendation or advice based on the data which has been collected. So 2 points which are to be noted here are, first is it contains some information which is based on detailed collection of data or a study of situations. Point 2, it is not just a compilation of data or a study report. It also contains certain recommendations or advice based on an analysis of the collected data. Let us study this in detail. What does this analysis and recommendation help? Point 1. If you look at a business organization, since this is business communication, we need to look at things from a business perspective. From a business perspective, your report helps to. Point 1. It helps in planning. Every business runs on planning. Planning is one of the basic functions of management. Your report helps you to plan a course of action over a long term or a medium term or a short term. What will be the duration of the plan that you are preparing? You need it to be based on certain facts. It is your report which has been collected from the field, analyzed and presented to you, which helps you in developing these plans. Point 2. You have the plan ready with you. Now you need to implement the plan. To implement the plan, you need to take decisions. So your report helps you to take decisions based on factual data. You cannot take decisions based on assumptions or guesswork. Your decision needs data. Your decision needs analysis. Your decision needs recommendations which are based on data. So your report, which has all these, helps you in taking sound business decisions. Point 3. Now, not all decisions can be taken simply, suddenly. There are certain decisions which require discussions. Decisions on matters which are complex, which require the expertise of several persons. Now, in such cases, a discussion needs to be conducted. Now, if you have a report, your report will form the basis of a discussion. It is based on this discussion that you can come to a decision. It is based on this decision that you can formulate a plan and roll it out. So point 3 says your report will form the basis for discussion to solve complex problems. Point 4. You have taken decisions, you have had discussions, you have formulated your plan and your plan is running. Now you need to evaluate the progress of your plan. How do you evaluate the progress? You evaluate the progress by comparing the current situation with the situation that was before. Your report will help you to understand where do you stand now vis-a-vis where you stood earlier. Your report will highlight how far you have progressed from the situation at the beginning. So point 4, a report helps to evaluate progress by studying action taken basis of the report. The last point is that a report helps to suggest control or corrective measures. You have analyzed the progress. You understand that you are progressing but not at the rate you desire things to move. Your progress needs to be accelerated. Now, if you have a report with you, you can understand why is the progress not going as expected. Are there certain corrective measures which need to be taken? Your report will help you to take various corrective or control measures in your progress. Let us now move on to understanding the features of a report, the characteristics of a report. What all are the special features which an ideal report should have? Point 1. Your report should be complete. A report should be complete in all respects, from the title of the report till the end of the report. Your report should be a complete document. Things should not be left hanging there. People should not be left still with requirements for additional information. Point 2. Your report should be accurate. Your report should be precise. Now, much of this will depend upon the accuracy of your data collection. Only if your collected data is accurate, will your report be accurate? The accuracy of a report to a great extent depends upon the reliability of the data collected. End of day, your report should be accurate. Point 3, brevity. The word brevity comes from being brief. These days, everyone is hard pressed for time. If your report is a voluminous document, chances are that it may not be referred to in detail. Make your report brief. Let your report be of such a size that people don't feel intimidated by the report. They should feel that they should be able to start the report, go through the report, and complete the report. Let your report be brief enough. Point 4, clarity. Now you should not make your report so brief, so small that not many things are clear in the report. People are left asking further questions. People are confused after reading the report than they were when they started out reading the report. This should not be the case. Your report should have absolute clarity on what has been demanded of you. Next point is reader orientation. Your report should be presented in a way that it takes into account the level of sophistication of the reader. If you prepare a report for a middle manager, it needs to be presented in a certain way. That particular way will not be suitable if the report is intended for a higher level management. And if you are presenting to the board of directors, it needs to be prepared in yet another manner. Also take the case of a report which needs to be presented to the CEO of a company by a consultant. Now the CEO is a person who has a marketing background. The consultant has an industrial or a technical background. If the consultant prepares his report in absolutely technical terms, you can understand the plight of the CEO. So whenever preparing a report, make sure that you have the reader in mind. Your report should be oriented towards the reader's level of understanding and sophistication. Next is, your report should be planned. Like everything works perfect when it is done in a planned manner. Your report should not be put together haphazardly. The conclusion comes at the beginning. The acknowledgement comes at the end. Chapters are jumbled up together. This should not be the case. To be professional, a report should be well planned. It should come in a logical sequence so that the person who goes through it understands it logically also. The last is, or the penultimate point is simplicity. Unnecessary sophistication leads to a difficult comprehension of your report. Let your report be presented in a language which is simple, professional, and thorough. Unnecessary explanations, unnecessary use of sophisticated words may be left out. Your report should be simple, clear, and easy to understand so that action will be taken on it rather than action happens to be postponed because of your report. The last point is, a report should have objective recommendations. Now, a report very often suggests certain course of action that needs to be taken. This is the data analyzed in the report. Now, this recommendation should be objective. Now, what do you mean by objective? Objective means your data should not be, your report should not be, your recommendation should not be subjective. Now, what is objective, subjective? Objectivity means, point 1, your report should be free of personal bias or prejudice. I don't like that sales manager, so I say that sales in that particular area is extremely poor because of mismanagement of salesmen, whereas the actual fact that has happened is that there have been 2 continuous hartals in that particular area. So my personal bias or prejudice against a particular individual has led me to giving a wrong conclusion and giving a damaging recommendation to the management. It should not be the case. The report should be free of personal bias or prejudice. Point 2, the recommendation should be logical conclusion of investigation and analysis of facts. Now, when you give a recommendation at the end of a report, it is not that you imagine certain recommendations and give it. Your recommendation should be the result of a logical analysis of the facts which you have studied. It is from the facts that you drive to the recommendation. Based on the analysis of facts, Based on your investigation, you should be able to logically arrive at the recommendations. Your recommendation should not be fancy guesswork. Point 3. There should be no role for opinions, inferences, guessworks, or judgments. Your report, your recommendations should be the result of only investigation and analysis. There should be no guesswork, there should be no opinions, there should be no inferences. I think, in my opinion, it may have been. This sort of vague statements have no place in your report. Your report should be based on sound analysis and logical reasoning. Next point says, a report should present both negative and positive aspects. Now this is very important for a report to look objective. If you present only negative aspects in your report, the objectivity of your report is suspect. Now if you say only positive things in your report, again your objectivity is suspect. There cannot be a thoroughly ideal situation, or there cannot be a fully negative situation. To be professional, a report should mention both positive and negative factors based on the investigation that the author of the report has conducted. The last point says, a report should not use emotional terms and should have impersonal style. Now this is a hygiene factor. Your report should not have emotional terms. I just love the product. It is performing extremely well. I was amazed by the performance of the product. The performance of this product is pathetic. I doubt whether the area sales manager is doing a thorough job. These are emotional terms. These terms have no place in a professional report. Your presentation, your report should be in a professional language and should have an impersonal style. Let us move on to the various types of reports. There are some 6 or 7 categories to be studied here. Let us understand this. First is reports based on legal requirement. Based on legal requirement, reports can be classified into statutory reports and non-statutory reports. Statutory reports are those reports which are based on some legal requirement by course of law, by process of law. Examples of such reports are an auditor's report, report on an annual general body meeting which has to be filed with the register of companies within a certain period after completion of the meeting. These are statutory reports. Reports which are to be compulsorily filed, prepared and filed based on legal requirements. Non-statutory reports, on the other hand, are prepared based on requirements of the management, sales report, production report. All these reports are based on certain requirements raised by the management at various points of time. Point 2 says, based on formality, reports can be classified into formal and informal reports based on formality. Your formal reports are prepared and presented in a particular structure. They have a predetermined sequence: cover, title, list of contents, body, index, acknowledgements. Everything is laid out in a particular predetermined sequence. This is a formal report. Most of your long reports are formal reports. Now, informal reports. As the name suggests, the purpose of an informal report is to convey some information. There is no formality involved. It may not be presented in a particular sequence. It may not be as voluminous as a formal report. So there might not be a particular introduction. There may be only a body copy. There may be only certain content which is being presented. Next category says a report can be classified, or reports can be classified based on frequency. How do you classify reports based on frequency? Reports can be routine reports and special reports. Routine reports are those reports which are presented or prepared at a particular routine. This can be daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports, quarterly reports, annual reports. These reports come out at particular predetermined points in time. These are routine reports. Special reports, on the other hand, are reports related to a single specific situation or requirement. Example, report on a strike in a factory, report on the proposed introduction of a new product. Now these are all special reports which are based on a single situation or a single requirement. The fourth point, classification of reports, says reports can be classified based on function as information reports and analytical reports. Now, information reports, like the name suggests, present only facts and a summary. Nothing more. There is no analysis, there is no interpretation, there is no recommendation. You asked to prepare a report on sales figures in a particular district. You give your sales figures. End of day, period. No further details are required. Why are sales low? What is the competition sales? Nothing. This is an informational report. You are asked to prepare a report based on certain facts, and these facts are summarized at the end. This is an informational report. Now you move to analytical reports. Analytical reports are reports which are prepared in great detail. They have an analysis, they have interpretation, and they will give recommendations. You have been asked to prepare a report on the reasons for decline in sales in a particular territory for the period 2019-20. Now this is a report which has to be analytical. It will start with a background scenario. What are the key players in the market in your particular line of business? What is your sales figure? What is your competition sales figure? What have you done specifically? What have they done specifically which you have not done? What are your recommendations so that this situation does not get repeated in the future? Or what can you do to improve your sales next year? This is an analytical report. Let us move to the next category. Reports can be classified based on their subject matter or based on department which prepares it. Any typical business organization will have several departments. Each department will deal with a particular subject matter. There will be finance department, there will be a marketing department, there will be HR, there will be administration, there will be production. The reports prepared by each of these departments will be called as subject matter reports. You have a marketing report for the financial year 2019-20. HR will give its report. Production will also give its report. So reports prepared by different departments are called as reports based on subject matter. Next classification says reports can be classified based on their length. How? Reports can be either short reports or reports can be long reports. Short reports are typically less formal. They have no introduction. They may have no conclusion. They will just present some information. They are less structured, and very often these reports have a personal touch. On the other hand, long reports are always formally structured. They have more content. They will start off with the title, list of contents, tables, indexes, recommendations, suggestions, bibliography, appendix, the entire works. So a long report is a report which is formally structured. Next classification is reports can be based on who has prepared the report, who is the author of the report. Here, reports can be classified as individual reports or committee reports. Individual reports are reports which are prepared by individuals. Examples are, you have your auditor's report, you have your HOD's report, and you may have a company secretary's report. All these reports have been prepared by a particular individual. Maybe a team of people would have prepared it for him, but end of day, it goes under a particular individual's name. These are individual reports. Now, what are committee reports? Committee reports are reports which are prepared by committees. What does a committee typically do, or why is a committee formed? There are certain decisions which may be complex in nature, which will require the experience and expertise of several individuals. Now, when these individuals come together to discuss and decide upon a particular course of action, it is called as a committee. The report which is prepared by this committee, after exercising their experience, their skills and their knowledge to the particular problem on hand, is called a committee report. In short, a committee report is a report which is prepared by a committee consisting of multiple people. Going forward, let us try to understand the steps in report preparation. There are 3 steps in report preparation. When you write a report, there are 3 steps involved. The first is pre-writing stage. The second is the writing stage. And the third is a rewriting stage. I'll repeat, there are three steps when you write a report. First is your pre-writing stage, second is your writing stage, and the third is your rewriting stage. Let us try to understand these three steps. In the pre-writing stage, the first point that needs to be noted is you should establish the purpose of the report. Why is the report being prepared? What is the intention of the person who has asked you to prepare the report? Does he need to fix the responsibility for a particular incident? Does he need to understand a particular situation? What is the requirement in preparing the report? What does he want? So the purpose of preparing the report should be established. Point 2, you should have a clear understanding of who is going to read the report and use the report. What is the level of sophistication of the reader? Earlier we discussed an ideal report should have reader orientation. It is this point that comes in here. You should understand who the report is being submitted to, who will read the report and act upon it. Accordingly, you will need to prepare the report. This knowledge is critical at the pre-writing stage. Point 3, you have understood the purpose of the report in point 1 here. Now you need to understand what are the specific topics that need to be studied. If you have been asked to prepare an analytical report on the reason for decline in sales in a particular market, you need to decide what all topics you need to study. Obviously, you need to have your sales data. Plus, you will also need to have your competition sales data. You will need to understand what all activities your competition did. You will also need to understand what your competitor was planning to do or what he is offering currently, which you are not offering. So, depending upon the purpose, you will have to decide upon what all specific topics you need to study. Point 4, in certain cases, one needs to collect background research material. This can be from various sources. It can be from the government. It can be from Chamber of Commerce. It can be from Confederation of Indian Industry. It can be from some libraries. Or it can be some pre-published material. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Now you are planning to launch a foreign exchange transfer organization. You are planning to establish a new branch of Western Union money transfer in your district. Now you need to understand the flow of transactions from expatriates to Kerala in a particular location. You take the case of an expatriate heavy location in Kerala like say Tiruvalla or Chavakkad. A critical point of reference for you will be to understand a study conducted by the Center of Development Studies in Trivandrum on the patterns of remittances by expatriates to their families in Kerala. There is a study like that. Now this will give you critical insights into when do expatriates send money, what is the average volume of their transaction, who goes to collect the money, is it aged parents, is it the women folk who go, or is it their children, what are the typical purposes for which money is being sent and money is being used. This is what is given in point D, collection of background research material from various sources. Point E, one cannot depend on theoretical material alone. For one, it might be slightly outdated. Nothing can match on-ground fieldwork. A thorough, well-prepared report will always have extremely good amount of fieldwork done. Now, how does a fieldwork happen? Personal observation, interviews, data collection through questionnaire are some of the commonly used methods. You go to meet people, you discuss with people, you observe situations on hand, and you collect on-ground information. The last is analysis and evaluation of data. You have research material with you, pre-published research material with you. You have conducted copious amount of fieldwork and you have tremendous data with you. The last stage in the pre-writing stage is you need to analyze and evaluate all the data which you have collected. Let us move to the second stage, which is the writing stage. In the writing stage, your collected data is outlined and organized in a logical sequence. It is compiled in a logical fashion to prepare an initial draft report. Now, most of this work can be understood as various chapters in a report. How do you organize various chapters or various sections in a report? In the writing stage, all the information that you have collected and analyzed is compiled into certain predetermined sections. What are these sections? Now, these sections can be understood in two different contexts. One is what are the sections in a short report and what are the sections in a long report. Let us take a short report structure first. In the writing stage, which is the stage at which you will prepare the initial draft of a report, there are 5 commonly found chapters. First one is your subject and purpose of the report. Why are you preparing the report? What is the subject matter of the report? Point 2, where have you collected your data from? Point 3, how have you studied the data? How have you analyzed the data? Is it through simple statistical tools like pie charts, diagrams, or is it using complicated algorithmic configurations? Point D says, what are the findings and conclusions? And point E, what are your recommendations? Simple 5 points form the basic sections of a short report structure. Opposed to this, in a long report, the structure will have almost double the number of chapters or sections. First one is title page, followed by an authorization letter. C, table of contents. D, an introduction to the topic. E, the body of the report. F, your findings and conclusions. G, your recommendations, followed by bibliography, and the last would be appendices. I am not going to in detail into the long report structure because this is being dealt elaborately in our next video, how to draft a report. The last stage in your report preparation, or the last stage when you write a report, is your rewriting stage. So the first stage was pre-writing stage, second is your writing stage, and the third is your rewriting stage. Now you have an initial report with you which you have prepared in your writing stage. In the rewriting stage, your initial report is reviewed, revised and recopied. It is reviewed, it is revised and it is redrafted. When doing this, the author of the report typically goes through a checklist and ensures all the right boxes are ticked. What are the points in the checklist which a researcher or the author of a report should ensure in the rewriting stage? Point 1, your report should match the purpose and objectives for which it has been commissioned. Point 2, all the information is complete and the reader has clarity. The reader is not left asking further questions after reading the report. Your report is full. Your report is complete. It has extreme clarity on what has been demanded of you. Point 3, your report is brief enough. It doesn't have too many sophisticated words. The language is simple, easy to understand. Point 4, it is oriented towards the reader. It matches the reader's level of understanding and level of sophistication. Next point says, facts and figures are recorded correctly. There are minimum opinions given. Your report is based on facts. Next, the report should be objective, unbiased and impartial. We discussed objectivity in features of an ideal report. Does your report look objective? Is your report impartial? Is it unbiased? Have you ensured that no personal prejudices, no personal biases have crept in your report? The next point says, the language of the report is courteous, professional and free of malice. The language of the report should be professional. Your report should not be written in a very personal language. You are doing a professional job in preparing and presenting a report. Accordingly, the language of your report should be suited to that of a professional. You should not be overly emotional. There need not be too many personal touches in your report. The last point says your report should be free from grammatical and spelling errors. This may look to be a minor point, but if your report has too many grammatical and spelling errors, it doesn't put across a very appealing picture of the author. So your report should be free from grammatical and spelling errors. These are the 3 steps in preparing a report. In our next video, we will try to understand what are the main contents of a long report, or what is the format of a report. Till then, goodbye.